Hello, meteorologist Lisa Green here with a look at what we can expect as we're heading into the rest of the week and, of course, our first alert weather days on the weekend. Now, we have added another first alert weather day. You can see behind me, Friday. It's been Saturday. We added Friday to the mix because we are looking at a surge of cold air that, regardless of whether we see snow or any type of precip for that matter, we're going to experience a big temperature drop and get some of the coldest temperatures of the season. So I want you to be ready for that too, and that's going to arrive before the more likely accumulation happening on Saturday. So we wanted to give you that first alert about what to expect. So let's get into the details on what we can expect here. So now Friday and Saturday are first alert weather days, and we're looking at that cold surge of air for the season. Again, we will see much colder temperatures coming up heading into the colder months ahead, but we're not used to this yet. So we want you to be ready, especially with the hunting opener coming up. And then the first snow of the season for some of us. Not everybody experiences that. So let's start off with the potential for the cold, and that is more likely as we are for everybody as we're watching a colder air mass move in. One thing I want to stress is that we've got, this is a cold air mass, or the air mass in place starting on Thursday morning. And this squiggly white line, it looks a little messy here, a little chaotic, but that's where the computer's plotting the points where temperatures at the surface are more likely to be at 32 degrees. So that freezing line essentially. So that's one to watch as we're working our way through the forecast. So at 5 a.m. Thursday, a lot of us may even be above freezing at that point. Thursday should be still mild. It's our one last mild day this week. But watch what happens as we head into Thursday night and then moving into Friday morning. No surprise in the morning hours that we'd be seeing freezing temperatures, but keep an eye on this line as this is 9 a.m. Friday as we go through Friday. And that is going to surge southward throughout the day. So in fact, I think Friday we're likely on Friday to actually see our temperatures dropping over the course of the day. So we may start off near 40 around midnight, but with that colder air moving in Friday behind one of our clippers moving through, that is where we're looking out for the potential for some colder air taking over and temperatures either holding steady or dropping through the day on Friday. So that's the initial push of the cold air, and that's what we're talking about when we're adding that first alert weather day to kind of keep you up to date on the fact that we're going to be seeing pretty chilly temperatures. Friday, you know, the hunting opener starting in North Dakota, so hunters will want to be prepared for that on Friday. We'll have some wind with it too, so there will be a wind chill factor. Not looking at a huge wind, but still some wind that will bring it down further for what it feels like to be outside. So this is Friday night. Let's continue on with the forecast heading into Saturday morning, kind of staying in that range. You can see that freezing line dipping well south of the valley in most areas. And then heading into the day Saturday, we continue to kind of double down on that colder air. And so that 32-degree line moves a lot farther south into a Saturday evening, into more parts of the Midwest. And we're kind of right in the heart of that colder air mass. And then moving on into Sunday, of course, we'd expect temperatures to be near freezing again in the morning hours this time of year, but the whole area, the whole region, I've got my setup here to only show parts of the northern plains and surrounding areas, so I can't go in and expand that at the moment, but it definitely surges southward, that colder air. So this is Sunday morning, and we're going to keep that going through the day. By the time we get into the afternoon, you can see we might make a little turnaround in some areas, see those temperatures climb at least to around freezing in spots. And then we really notice that difference heading into next week, specifically on Tuesday. So Monday's going to be chilly too, but Tuesday you can see a real difference in the coloring. You can see some greens and yellows, and those colors correspond with some milder temperatures associated with a much milder air mass that's moving in and kind of pushing that colder air on, and the colder air itself just moving on as well. So some changes happening into next week. So it's really the weekend that we are looking at that push of colder air, and so that's going to be something that we're kind of stuck with here throughout the weekend. It's definitely going to be feeling like we're heading into winter time, I think, with those numbers really sliding and that possibility of seeing snow, some firsts that we'll be experiencing this weekend. Okay, so that's the temperature. I do want to talk about the clipper situation. So I've labeled this graphic the Clipper Parade because we've already seen one. We're in northwesterly flow right now. So that's when we're, kind of looking up to places like Alberta, up into Canada and west of us. And we know if you've lived around the valley long enough during the winter time, we basically get patterns set up with two types of systems that typically impact us. Other things can happen, but the two main systems are clippers moving in, Alberta clippers moving in out of that direction, northwest, and those tend to be fast. They tend to produce a stronger, well, strong winds, not necessarily stronger than the other type, but strong winds, and they don't usually pack a lot of moisture with them. So when clippers move through, especially when we've got snow on the ground, we're worried about, ground drifting and that kind of thing, and then maybe another couple of inches of snow. Now, the other type of system is Colorado low, labeled from where those systems tend to come from, and that's coming in out of the Rockies, and those can draw in a lot of moisture. So those are the big storms, the ones that produce the heavy snow. They can last for days. They don't necessarily move as fast as the clippers do. Some can move through pretty quickly, but some can stick around and really wreak havoc on the valley. I'm not looking at anything like that. We're talking about clippers. So these are these fast ones that, and the whole reason it's called the clippers because it clips right by us. It's moving pretty fast. So we are looking at a series of them with that northwesterly flow. So we saw one move through yesterday. We had the rain move through yesterday, and it was out very quickly. In fact, overnight we cleared out. We had a beautiful morning here. It was a little crisp with temperatures below freezing, but a beautiful morning that allowed us to see that full moon. It'll be back up again, by the way. If you missed the supermoon this morning, you'll see it again once it rises in the east. I think 4:47 was the time for Fargo, and I'm sorry I did not include that graphic here. I showed it this morning on Valley Today, and you can find it right on my Facebook page as well, and on the VNL Facebook page too. But again, if you want to see the supermoon, we'll still be clear for a good portion of the early evening. Clouds will be building in, so be ready for that to happen here heading into tonight. So I digress. We've gone off on a little tangent there with the moon, but we are looking out for the next two to come in. So the next one would be moving in on Thursday, and then following that Friday night. So the first clipper in the parade and the succession of clippers that are moving through is for Thursday night and into, I would maybe even Thursday afternoon and into Friday through the course of the morning hours. This one may not impact a lot of us during the day on Thursday. I would say the Northern Valley International Border area are more likely to be impacted by that first one tomorrow, but then it does sweep through and has the potential to affect everyone with that chance for a light mix of precip. And again, with each clipper moving through, we kind of get another push of colder air. So we go from last night's round of all rain to tomorrow night and into Friday, a chance for a light mix. Again, it's light precip. And then heading into Friday and Saturday, looking out for more of that to switch over to snow as more cold air continues to punch in. So precip is still going to be very light, so that's not going to be a huge factor other than, limiting your visibility at times when it's falling and just being a nuisance as you're trying to travel. This is for that first round. What's really going to be impactful with this first of two subsequent clippers that we'll see is that we are going to see some colder air push in. That colder air mass that I just showed you on that color contour map, that really rushes in. So you're going to notice a huge difference in temperatures from Thursday to Friday, and that's going to be the biggest impact, along with, again, that chance for some precip with that first clipper. And we do have that day first alerted to you now for Friday because of the changes that's coming along with that, and the possibility that we could see some flakes still on Friday. Some of us could see them on Friday before we do on Saturday. Heading into Saturday, that's where we're more likely, this is the second round, we'll slide over here a little bit, that is more likely to be the more accumulation type snowfall producer because temperatures will be cold enough. We're going to have areas of snow that are more than just a couple of flurries or more of or not so much a mix, but more just straight up snowflakes. So that's where we have that possibility for that mix to change over to light snow in some places. And we've been stressing this all along. Not everywhere is going to see snow. So don't necessarily be counting on it. And as we're getting closer, as we're getting more model runs coming through with more data, we're seeing it to be more likely in North Dakota where we're going to see that snow. Doesn't mean that track may change, or won't change, but that's how it's looking right now. The impacts from this one is that we may see our first accumulation of the season, in places in the valley, especially again on the North Dakota side. There will be a little bit of melting probably, especially on roadways. We'll see a lot of melting going on there, but even on grassy surfaces, the ground's still pretty warm. In fact, we're very warm on the ground surface right now. And anywhere where we have snow, of course, that's going to reduce visibility. There may be a little bit of wind too with the system, though it doesn't look like it's going to be, a huge wind maker either. These are all kind of weak waves moving through that are going to be just enough to cause some issues and be a factor for any time you plan to spend outside. So again, that's the Clipper Parade that we're talking about. Next couple of rounds coming our way. I do want to mention there's also a chance for some snow showers on Sunday, and I won't gloss over that. We'll talk about that too coming up. Those of us who maybe miss out on Saturday could see on Sunday too. So it looks interesting in the coming days. Today really is the day to enjoy the weather while you can, because you can see here we've got beautiful clear skies in most areas. There are a few clouds over toward Bismarck trying to sneak in, but most of us are seeing some clear skies, a few clouds up around Lake of the Woods as well. It's just sunny out there. And looking at our camera at the Dakota Magic Casino, down at the Dakota border, you see that blue sky right now. And the wind moving those flags. It's not super strong, but don't be surprised if you see some gusts today into the 20s, mainly out of the west or northwest. And current temperatures, just checking in on these conditions, we're in the upper 30s to some mid 40s. It's 42 in Fargo and 43 in Grand Forks. So our forecast for today is going to be ranging from up along the international border, we'll be right around 40 degrees here, and then down toward the Dakota border, we'll be around 50 degrees or so, and in between, most of us into the 40s this afternoon, with again watching for a few more clouds rolling in, but again, the vast majority of the daylight hours, we don't get that many this time of year. Again, a reminder, the sun sets around 5. The majority of the daylight hours are going to be sunny ones. So let's get into what's coming up here the next few days. Now, all week long, I've been talking about how, there's been some disagreement between our long-range models. We've been talking about, possible scenarios. I have Monday, Tuesday, and now today in our live update here, I continue to use the European model. So if you've been following along, you can see how it may have changed a little bit, where it's trending. And then, of course, I'll be talking about that here and comparing it a little bit to other models that are coming in as well, to tell you how the scenario is shaping up for us right now. And I mentioned earlier on, it's looking more like North Dakota being the focus. And so we'll break that down for you here as we go through our hour-by-hour planner. So I'm going to bring this full screen again. So we're going to start things off tomorrow morning. The clouds build in tonight. Tomorrow morning we'll wake up to mainly overcast skies leading up to that first round that we just talked about. So let's move through the day on Thursday. You can see heading into the 6 o'clock hour, there is that potential that those of us along the international border may briefly see a little bit of precip along the border area. It'd be more in the form of rain. The rest of us fairly quiet precip-wise. It really isn't until we get the low dropping in or the wave dropping in where we see that push of colder air and the potential for precip. So this is 6 p.m. Let's move ahead in time. You can see by the time we get into Friday morning, the wraparound precip, if you will, with this wave starts to push in. So this is a little delayed compared to previous runs. So we could have some more impacts on Friday morning as far as mixed precipitation is concerned. And you can see there's green indicating rain, blue indicates snow, and then in between pink is more freezing rain or perhaps even a little sleet or mixed precipitation. And so Friday morning we'll be watching for this to drop southward through the valley. So the morning commute through the noon hour, you may have to turn on those windshield wipers a little bit. Temperatures are still going to be, from a standpoint of comparison here, relatively mild. I think most places will still be around or above freezing during the morning hours. But as I mentioned earlier, Friday temperatures are going to be likely sliding through the day. So as we get into the afternoon, we may be below freezing at that point. But the first part of the day will likely be warmer than the second part of the day on Friday, with this colder push of air following this clipper. Okay, so that's noon on Friday. And so let's move on into the second round. You can even see some breaks in the clouds on Friday. This is 11 p.m. And so since this model is delaying the arrival of the first clipper, we're looking at a slight delay, not a huge delay, but a slight delay in the arrival of the second one. And this clipper is going to be the one that we're watching for more potential for accumulation. At this point, we're below freezing. At this point, we are, looking at the entire column of air from surface and above in that freezing range. So the likelihood of flakes and the chances of them sticking to colder surfaces are a little bit greater. And you can see for those hunters who are going to be out on Friday in central and western North Dakota, there is the potential you'll be impacted in the afternoon hours if this moves in early enough. So something to keep in mind there. And then moving on into the overnight hours, you can see where that line or that band of snow is setting up here overnight and into Saturday. And it's more focused in central and eastern North Dakota. And moving on into the 8 o'clock hour on Saturday morning, and we've been talking about this the whole time. There's a little shift westward on this, but not a huge one because, in previous days, I've mentioned that, my kind of area where I was thinking we would have the greatest chance of seeing snow is in eastern North Dakota. It was more particularly in northeastern North Dakota, but still, we're looking at eastern parts of the state, whereas Minnesota is, not seeing much with this round coming through, at least according to this particular model. And when I look at other forecast models as well, this is the European again. The American has been continually trending some of that snow more towards central North Dakota, though bringing some of it into the valley at times. And then now our regional models, as we get closer, they're more coming into play, and they're kind of lining up too. So there's more of a consensus starting to come together that the track of this system is going to be more for North Dakota than it will be for Minnesota as far as precip is concerned with this one. This first round, I should say. So looking at the snow, again, those of us in eastern North Dakota will want to pay closer attention, but I wouldn't just ignore the forecast from this point on if you're in Minnesota either. One, because you're still going to get hit by the cold, and there is a chance for some snow for you too coming up a little bit later in the weekend. And things can shift, things can change. It's Wednesday, we're still a few days out. So let's get back to our full screen view here. We've got that snow moving through. That drops to the south. And so, again, eastern South Dakota more impacted as that happens if this, again, scenario ends up playing out. This is 4 p.m. on Saturday. There's going to be some wind more associated in central North Dakota, but there will be some places in eastern North Dakota that experience the wind as well. And so, again, anywhere where the wind and snow are combining, we've got reduced visibility, regardless of whether it sticks or not. As it's falling, there may be an issue with some visibility at times. Okay, so heading into Saturday night, so that's kind of the main round of accumulating snow, but heading into Saturday night and into Sunday, this is 11 p.m. Saturday. Check this out. We've got a chance for some snow, a parting shot popping in, heading into Sunday for potentially our viewers in Minnesota that may miss out on the round on Saturday. So that's a quick shot. We'll see if that ends up happening, but I'm keeping an eye on that for Sunday too, that potential for some snowflakes in that direction as well. So again, basically, as we head into Thursday night, as we head into Friday, through Saturday and Sunday, we're going to keep our eyes on the radar, our eyes on these storm systems that are moving through. Again, they're weak, they're not producing heavy snow, but we haven't seen snow yet this season for a lot of places, and especially we haven't seen accumulating snow, and that is a possibility for some of us. So something to watch closely. And I do want to do a little more comparison as we take a look at our snowfall potential. So again, I'm using the European model, so that lines up with the model I just showed you. So this is snowfall potential. A reminder that this is not a guarantee of what's going to be on the ground. It's what could end up accumulating. Some of it may melt, and again, the scenario may shift a little bit as well. So back to the full screen view. This is through Friday evening or Friday afternoon. So we've had at this point in time, we've had that kind of first round of of that clipper move through Thursday night and into Friday. You can see there's not much for snow potential. We might see some flakes, but it's more of a mixed bag of melting precip with this round that moves through. Now let's move ahead into Friday night with that second clipper. And then you can see that, again, this is the European showing that light accumulating snow is possible, more from Minot back down into the James River Valley, the Lisbon area, Fargo kind of right on the edge of that. We might see a couple of flakes if this is how the track ends up playing out. And then into Minnesota, really not seeing much of anything. And I just mentioned the potential for some snow on Sunday for Minnesota. Watch as I move through the rest of the weekend. There's that potential for not much, but maybe a dusting or even just a flurry or two heading into Sunday as well. So this is the combination of all chances from Thursday through Sunday night at 11 p.m. as you see on our timeline here. So this is the whole shebang, they say, and so we're looking out for the potential for some of this to melt again as it falls on the warmer ground. But again, there is that possibility of it to stick. Now I'm going to look at the American model. This one has continued to trend a little farther west, and it's actually lining up a little bit more with the European. So that's the interesting thing to see here, is that both models are kind of coming into alignment with each other. The European has shifted a little farther west, the American model just a little nudge to the east, and so the American model is going a little bit more gung-ho on snowfall potential, and that model does tend to go a little bit stronger on snowfall or precip potential in general, but it is lining up. So that brings more confidence that this may be the scenario we end up seeing, where we've got that snow from northwestern North Dakota and then back over into southeastern North Dakota being that area of focus, and then Minnesota being a little less likely. And with the U.S. model, we'll bring that full screen again. You can see this is again through Sunday night. There's the potential for a few flakes, but they're more focused over toward the Boundary Waters, International Falls, and up toward Lake of the Woods area in Minnesota from that round heading into Sunday. So again, talking about winter weather coming for just in time, the deer opener. I've heard from hunters saying we want a little bit of snow on the ground to track deer, and you may just get it in some locations with temperatures staying pretty chilly throughout the course of the weekend. This is for Fargo, these numbers. So by Friday afternoon, we've got temperatures down toward freezing with that light mix possible. And then heading into Saturday, temperatures right around freezing for highs. And then Sunday, same thing with that potential for some snow more toward the east or maybe just some flurries. So if we do accumulate snow, it's going to stick around a little bit for us in the valley. If you're in the northern valley, that's where we have the possibility of seeing temperatures staying in the 20s. We'll have morning lows in the 20s. And then some of us up north more likely to stay into the 20s. So it's looking like a big shock temperature-wise this weekend, again, regardless of the snow. And so that's why we've added another first alert weather day to the mix. Notice our temperatures here. We go from 48 today, lots of sunshine. Thursday's going to be more cloudy, but we stay mild. We'll have a high of about 52 degrees. And then with that first clipper that moves through, the temperature just plummets. And so we go from being, in the evening, or I should say overnight hours, still above freezing, to dropping as we head into the afternoon. So our afternoon temperature will likely be below freezing on Friday. So we just want to give you that heads up that it's not just, we've been talking about the snow potential a lot, but it's not just that. It's also the fact that we're going to see some of our coldest air of the season so far. We're going to be experiencing a big sudden change in our temperature too, going from 52 to 31. So find that warmer coat. You don't need the parka necessarily just yet, but more than just a jean jacket too, if you're going to be outside for a while, especially for hunters who may be out all weekend. And then Saturday is first alerted to the fact that that's the day where we may more likely see some accumulating snow for parts of the valley. And right now it does look like it's more North Dakota. And Sunday we'll have to watch out for a few showers, snow showers, and some flurries possible Sunday, especially in the east. And all the while it will be a bit breezy. There's the potential during this period that we could see gusts up to about 30 miles per hour. So it's not going to be intensely windy, but still some wind increasing. which of course factors into visibility when snow is falling and the wind chill as well. So it's going to feel colder than these numbers. And one thing I want to point out too is we're going to have some cold mornings, around 20 on Sunday. Monday morning could be our chilliest. And then we start to recover. You can see the temperature just barely, but nosing up a little bit on Monday. But we'll really notice that difference on Veterans Day with that warmer air. Remember when we started out this update? It was a while ago. I've been talking a while here. That is going to be the day where we start to see that warmer air mass move in. It's looking like right now. So just in time for Veterans Day events, not nearly as cold, and that will help to melt any snow that's lingering on the grassy, colder areas. And through the rest of that week will be milder, with no major systems showing up right now in store for us for next week. So you know, it's a lot to go over, and I want to make sure when we go over these things that we talk about the uncertainties so you can understand them, the potential scenarios we may face, and what we do know to be likely here as it gets closer. So again, the cold for everybody, we're all getting in on that, and then the potential for precip is there for everyone as well, with that mix over to snow happening into Saturday, and that's more likely for North Dakota at this point in time. But it's Wednesday. We still have a few days left to go, and we'll continue to keep you posted. So I wouldn't necessarily cancel your plans for the weekend. This is not a snowstorm that by any means that's going to shut things down. We're just looking at something that we haven't seen in a while because we've been in the warmer months. So this is our first kind of snow of the season, a light one, and it could have some impacts on you, and we just want you to be ready for it. So first alerting you to Friday and Saturday now for cold and for chances for snow, and we'll have updates for you later today and then throughout the course of the week as well. And you can always check for the latest forecast right on the VNL Weather app anytime and track the precip too as it's moving through in the coming days right on the radar. Have a great Wednesday. Enjoy the sunshine because it is going to be more cloudy through the rest of the week. We'll have some breaks, especially on Friday in between systems, but it is going to be more on the cloudy side, and we won't have a bright blue sunny day like today for a little while at least. So enjoy today, the quieter weather, the drier weather before it starts to get more active. We'll see you tomorrow.